many Hispanic cultures that says you can't get married until you learn how to cook. Well, it was a combination of this phrase, the fact that I grew up in Mexico for 6 years, where many marry at a very young age, and the passion of culinary technique that my grandmother instilled in me at the age of 4 when she handed me my first knife. Today I will talk about the history of this knife and the impact it has had on me. I know what you're probably thinking, a 4-year-old with a knife, right? Scary thought. But trust me, it was a plastic knife. It was still a chef's knife, so it was still sharp. But this knife originated from my great-great-grandmother, and it has been passed down through the generations onto me. This knife was her very first knife, and my great-great-grandmother was a chef who owned her own restaurant. So cooking runs through my family, and it is a passion of ours. I remember my grandmother standing behind me when I was a 4-year-old, standing in the little stool trying to reach the countertop, and her gripping my hand as she guided the knife. And after repeating this motion for 3 years, I eventually learned many of the family recipes, as well as absorbing all of the knowledge of culinary technique. And a few years later, at the age of 6 and 7, I eventually was able to cook alongside my grandmother many of her family recipes. Fast forward into high school, I bought my very first knife. It was a Japanese Santoku, and it costed $300. I know it's a lot for a knife, but trust me, it's very beautiful. This was around the same time that I got my first job as a 17-year-old at a fine dining restaurant as a line cook, which is actually a pretty big deal considering many don't hire until you're 18. I was going to school for 40 hours a week, and at the same time I was also working between 40 to 60 hours a week. But it never felt like work. It was always time for me to be creative and create new recipes. In summary, both these knives, the plastic one and my Japanese knife, have inspired me to perfect and create recipes that I will then get to pass down to future generations. Both these knives have seen me cry, bleed, and sweat. They have seen it all. They hold many, many stories that go back from my great-great-grandmother to me, and eventually to my future children and generations. The knife is a symbol of hard work, dedication, passion, and knowledge, and most importantly, it represents my family.